The Oxford Dictionary has a few Korean words in it. Hangul, Taekwondo, and Ondol are some of them. Among the examples, what shouldn't go unmentioned must be kimchi, the best known Korean food staple. But the recognition about Korean cuisine is not only confined to kimchi or a couple of other iconic foods. As people around the world are more interested in things from Korea, interest in Korea's dietary culture is also increasing. Just like K-pop and K-dramas, a new word, K-food, has been coined. According to government statistics, the number of Korean food restaurants around the world has more than tripled from 2008 to 2017. As of 2017, over 30,000 Korean restaurants are in business globally. It's not just in Asian cities. Dishes of japchae or bibimbap are pleasing the palate of New Yorkers and Londoners. Not only these traditional Korean dishes are popular. One news report said that Korean-style chicken is popular in Korean restaurants in New York. The popularity of Korean food is increasing, but it still has a long way to go to be established as well-known international cuisine. The selection of Korean foods for foreigners is still very limited compared to the list of food enjoyed by Koreans. Many Koreans believe that the Korean food hasn't fully achieved its potential in the international market. People around the world have their own image about Korea, good or bad. Globalizing Korean cuisine will contribute to the country's image, very likely in a good way. Korean food is more popular than ever. Korean food has global exposure now compared to the past. So I said it has global exposure. So previously it wasn't exposed or shown to the world, but now that there's over 30,000 Korean restaurants, the company's getting more exposure, which means more people are seeing Korean food. Health-conscious people recognize that Korean food is good for you. The food has a lot of nutrients through vegetables and probiotics. So the first part I said health-conscious people. So if someone's health-conscious, they're very concerned about their health, their diet, exercise, sleep, and what they do. But however, you could be fashion conscious and care about how you look and how you dress every day. So it means you're always thinking about something related to you. Or you could say let's say you're an early adapter. You're very tech conscious. You know all the new gadgets that are coming out, new iPhones, new earphones. That's being conscious about something. And finally, I said the foods contain nutrients through vegetables and probiotics. So when we talk about things like kimchi or any sort of fermented food, those have probiotics. So when we talk about, oh, that food has probiotics, it's the same thing. It's gone through a fermentation process. Korean food is a healthy alternative to other foreign foods that may be too greasy and contain a lot of carbohydrates. So first I said it's a healthy alternative to other foreign foods. So if you're looking at all the foreign foods, you might pick Korean food because it is more healthier compared to, let's say, a culture that might fry their foods a lot. So I said it may be too greasy. Sometimes Koreans describe greasy food as oily, but in English we tend to use, oh, that food is greasy. I don't want anything too greasy. Or French fries and fried chicken, that's too greasy for me. And then I said a lot of other foods contain a lot of other carbohydrates. So carbohydrates, or we say carbs for short, is anything made out of sugar or flour. So if you have like a huge noodle dish, that's going to be a lot of carbohydrates. Or if you have a lot of bread or pasta, that's a lot of carbs or carbohydrates. Korean food had a late start to the international food scene. Pedestrian Korean food also has been served at restaurants that concentrate on profit over quality. So I said Korean food had a late start in the international food scene, meaning, Chinese and Japanese during the, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they went abroad and started establishing Korean food restaurants. But Koreans didn't do that till maybe the early 2000s or late 90s. So they had a late start. It means they entered the food scene later. And then I said, pedestrian Korean food has also been served at restaurants. So when we talk about food that is pedestrian or a restaurant that is pedestrian, it means the quality of the food is not that good. The word comes from, just someone who is a pedestrian walking down the street. Anyone can walk in that restaurant, and eat that food. And that food is almost for everybody. It's not for people with like very refined taste or rich people. It means almost anyone can go there. And finally, I said restaurants that concentrate on profit over quality. So a lot of restaurants, what they'll do is they might get very famous. There's a favorite bakery of mine here in Korea, and they used imported wheat flour for their bread. But then they decided to save $5 on a 10-kilogram bag and use the local cheaper flour. Then the bread was ruined. So they were concentrating on that $5 over the quality. But so when people start doing that, if you're focusing on the profits instead of quality, people stop going to the restaurants and they get a bad reputation. Korea is a newcomer to the culinary scene. One hurdle is that some Korean restaurants cut corners and don't provide the best possible food for their customers. So like I said before, they had a late start. Korea is a newcomer. So a newcomer is someone who starts something new in a school, in a team, or in a process. And then they're a newcomer to the culinary scene. Culinary is another way of saying cooking. So the culinary arts are the way of studying cooking. If I asked you, how are your culinary skills? That's another way of saying, are you a good cook? And then in the second part, I said, one hurdle is that some Korean restaurants cut corners. So a hurdle is like an obstacle that you have to get over or a problem. But cutting corners means you are not doing a job or a good enough job where you're fulfilling all of your duties. So if you imagine running around a square, you have to run around the corners. But if you cut through the corners, you're taking shortcuts. So for example, in Korea, you might find a great japchae that has like 9 ingredients. But if you go to a restaurant where japchae only has 5 ingredients, the restaurant cut corners. They didn't put everything in there or use the best ingredients or ways of making it. Changing the recipe to please the palate of different countries would spoil the authenticity of Korean food. So changing the recipe to please the palate. So if a certain group of people or a certain country likes a certain taste, either it be sweet, salty, spicy, a lot of companies will change the recipe. So for example, when I came here, the bread has sugar on it, on top. And also chips have more sugar on it here than the United States. So that would assume that Koreans like that sweet taste versus just a bland or salty taste. That's pleasing the palate of the local people. However, if you did this with just Korean food in other country, it would spoil the authenticity of Korean food. So to spoil means to make things go bad or to go rotten. So no longer would the Korean food be authentic. It would be some other version of Korean food. For example, like if you put, tomato sauce in kimchi jjigae, to make it more appealing to a certain European country, that would be spoiling the authenticity because there is no tomato in kimchi jjigae. Localizing the food to fit the natives' dietary needs would ruin real Korean food. So localizing, again, so if you're going to localize something, you're going to make it so the local people will enjoy it or consume it. And then the food to fit the natives' dietary needs. So if the dietary needs require more sugar or less spice, that's going to change what the ingredients are of Korean food and might make it something completely different. Thanks, guys. And don't forget to follow me at MattSam, MattSam on Instagram. And thanks for downloading. Bye-bye.